Welcome to another monthly live crystal Q&A. I am really happy that you are able to connect again with me. It could be that you are logging on and part of this live stream right now. And if so, feel free to go ahead and enter any questions you may have in the chat. I will do my best to go ahead and keep remembering to take a peek at the chat box. Also, if you are watching this on the replay, welcome. I am Mary Jo Feely. I am the owner of Fourth Dimension Healing in Stillwater, Minnesota, which is where I have my energy and crystal healing practice. I offer advanced Reiki classes through my office in Stillwater, Minnesota, as well as offer mentoring sessions and light language sessions. And so you can certainly take a peek at some of the different things I have available. And it could be that you and I will be connecting if we haven't yet already done so. I'm also the director of the Center for Crystal and Healing Studies, which is my online school. And it is through the Center for Crystal and Healing Studies that I offer a variety of coursework in energy healing, Reiki, and crystal healing. And these are courses that are blended, they're self-paced, which means you're going to be moving through the online curriculum. And there are also going to be times when there are pause points where you and I connect, which is where we get the blended concept, where we are having one-on-one conversations, either in person or virtually, depending on what works for you and perhaps where you live in what part of the world. And so it's through those courses that you can explore a lot about energy and crystal healing. And then I also have a crystal healer certification program. So if that's something you're interested in, certainly reach out to me, check out my website. And it is below the text of this video on my channel. Also, through my online school, I do offer free mini courses in self-care, some guided meditations. I have some energy and crystal healing mini courses that are free, as well as a couple of eBooks. And you can access those just simply by signing up for the Center for Crystal and Healing Studies. It's free to do so. And also through my school, I have Community, which is an online platform that's more private than some of the other social media sites. And so that's a great place for us to connect, as well as connecting with others who are moving through the school and exploring some of the coursework that I offer. So once a month, I gather a number of questions that I've been asked over the month, and I do my best to be able to present those. If I do not get to all the questions, I do reach out to the person who submitted the question so that they get their question answered right away, simply because we might have run out of time. And then for the rest, I will simply just follow up and carry those over to next month. We have a lot of questions. I feel like I've got papers all over the place. And so I will do my best to make sure that I am doing justice to the questions. If I have answered one of the questions that you perhaps have submitted and you feel like you'd like a little bit more information, you can always reach out to me. Great ways to do that is you can email me. You can chat right through my website. And if I'm online, don't be surprised, I might actually respond back right away. You can give me a call and you can send me a text if you want it as well. You can get that contact information below this video as well. So as I mentioned, we've got lots to talk about. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right in. So this is a question. I actually have a couple of different little dishes of stones. I'm going to put them in a different order. You'll see why in a minute. And so this is actually, it's kind of a follow-up question from last month. And if you haven't had a chance to already take a look at any of my previous live stream replays, go ahead and take a look at them. In the body, the text, the body beneath the actual video, I have timestamps for which of the different topics or questions that I answer throughout that hour. So it may be that you want to listen to the whole hour, or it may be that you're looking for a specific topic. You can find it pretty easily there. So here's the first question for this evening. Last month, you talked about some of the stones that you use that are storm stones. And so if you didn't see last month, I actually had a question asked about some of the different stones related to storm element. And so I decided to do a little show and tell with some of the different stones that I actually work with personally. They're not worked with for my clients and my students. So here's the question. Last month, you talked about some of the stones that you use that are storm stones. Would you be willing to show us some of the other stones you use? Short answer, yes, I'd be happy to. I think that one of the nice things that this question brings up is that, it's nice to know that when we're working with somebody, they are walking the talk, right? And so you will find that as I'm showing you and talking about some of the different gemstones and crystals that I work with personally, that I have really integrated working with crystals and gemstones as a real a consistent self-care practice that is just very normal for me now. So we talked about storm last month. Check it out if you haven't seen it. So I am going to talk with you and show you just a few of the stones that align and resonate with earth, fire, water, and wind. And so I brought 3 of each. I'm not going to go in super deep detail. If you want to learn more about a particular stone, you can certainly go out to my online shop where I have a wide variety of gemstones and crystals. You can search for what you're looking for. You can learn more about that particular gemstone or crystal through my online shop. So I have 3 earth resonating earth stones that I work with quite a bit. And if you've heard my other videos, I really do think that earth is important. Everything we're doing for healing, we have to anchor into our physical body, our physical lived experience. Earth element helps us do that. So the first one I love working with is amber. Now, amber, having been a living being like a tree, and then transformed, I love working with it because it can help at times when I feel as if I just need to slow down, pause a bit, stand still, kind of like what the tree did over millennia, and allow myself to have that transformation that I'm in the process of moving through to take place. So I love working with amber. It's a very gentle earth stone. Some earth stones are more heavy duty. Some are more gentle, and I would say amber is an example of that. So this is a lovely piece of blue amber from Sumatra. I also work with ruby. Now, ruby is a red form of corundum. When corundum is found in any other color other than red, we know of it as sapphire. So here we have ruby, and ruby reminds me that with this earth energy that we are drawing up into our physical and energetic bodies, there are essentially two threads or 2 different frequencies of earth energy. One is this really vivid red kind of vital life force energy, which is what we find in ruby. So when we're feeling depleted or a little rundown, maybe we've just overextended ourselves, working specifically with a piece of ruby can be really helpful. And if you're not quite sure what I mean when I reference working with a gemstone or crystal, I know I've talked about it in previous Q&As, live stream Q&As, as well as I do have a video also that I will it'll show up here at the top of your screen, and that will help give you a little bit more information about working with that kind of stone. The other one I like working with is Shungite. Shungite is a special kind of carbon, and it presents itself different ways. We know that a diamond is actually highly structured carbon. We also know that we can have, it's almost like graphite, like what we find in a pencil. That is a form of carbon. And then we have Shungite, which is a kind of carbon which creates, for lack of a better word, it kind of is like a geodesic dome, or if you've ever seen these, I don't know if I have one. I should bring it next time if I can find it. It's like an interconnecting little ball. You can find them in multicolored, fun colors, and sometimes kids play with them. You can stretch it out and you can push it back in, pull it out and push it back in. And it always holds this particular, almost like a soccer ball kind of structure. That is the form of the carbon molecules when 60 of those carbon molecules all hook together and create this kind of soccer ball kind of geodesic dome structure. So that's Shungite. I like working with Shungite because it clears the electromagnetic field of debris and clutter. It is a great detox kind of stone. So there are those who might put this in a bath or might put it in some water and soak their feet. There are different ways to work with it. So that, I would say, we've got the amber, we've got this really life force energy related to the ruby, and then we've got this electromagnetic clearing. So those are three of the different earth stones I work with. All earth, all have different properties, all approach healing slightly differently. So that's earth. Then we have fire. So fire, one of the stones I really like working with is rhodonite. Rhodonite, to me, does have some earth in it, yet it's really pretty fiery, and it is really helpful for really bringing in this transformational energy into the heart space. So I like working with rhodonite, and rhodonite looks sometimes quite different. Sometimes it's almost black. It almost has some aspects of the stone that look like this shungite. Another stone I like working with, clink, clank, clonk, all of my stones, is tiger's eye. Golden tiger's eye is a combination of a quartz. It has hematite in it. It has this earth and this fiery energy, and it really is a wonderful activating stone. So this is the kind of stone that gets things rocking and rolling a bit. So if that's what perhaps you're looking for, you might want to consider working with some tiger's eye. I like it because it pulls down that kind of sun energy and pulls up earth energy, even though it is primarily a fire stone. Then I have Larimar. Larimar is one of my go-to stones also. This actually resonates with water and fire, but I like to associate it mostly with fire. It has a volcanic origin, comes from the Dominican Republic, and it's the only place you can get Larimar. And I was just recently at a gem show a couple weeks ago and was able to find some more, which made me happy. I ran into and met a new vendor from the DR, Dominican Republic, and I have a source now. So this is a stone that to me it helps to activate, yet does it in a calming, soothing way, which seems almost like it contradicts itself, but it has this, it reminds me of laying on a beach. You have the sun beating down on you, and yet you hear the soothing lapping of the waves on the water. And so it's kind of that kind of a calm, soothing, activating, healing. At least that's in my experience. So those are some of the stones I work with earth and with fire. I'll set those aside. Then when we take a look, we have the other two elements I work with, which is water and wind. I have a couple of really favorite water element stones. One of them, whoops, I picked up the wrong one. I wanted to start with Lepidolite. Lepidolite is a stone that is very supportive of calming that kind of worked up, anxious, stressful kind of experience that we encounter as we move through life. It has a very soft, almost marshmallowy kind of energy to me. If I were, for example, working with one of the earth stones and then also holding one of these, there would be quite a difference in how the energies feel to me. I really like working with Lepidolite because it does help calm the nervous system, help calm things down. And, I tend to kind of move fast and I do a lot of things. And sometimes I can really benefit from being reminded to just calm down and just chill out a little bit. And I find lepidolite is really helpful for that. So that is one of the water stones. Another one is aquamarine. Now, aquamarine is a beautiful stone that helps to support the throat chakra and the heart chakra and this clear ability to communicate effectively. And sometimes when we're busy, when we have lots going on, it can be hard to communicate effectively. So there are times when I find working intentionally with aquamarine specifically to help me bring in that water clearing, calming, soothing energy that aquamarine brings into that throat chakra so that I can do more clearing work around that. And I don't know if you're like this, but sometimes I don't even know that I have some strategies and some various tools in my toolkit, so to speak, that I can actually work with to help shift some of what's going on with me. And I think that is natural for us because as humans, our brain is going to go negative 9 times out of 10. It's just the way our brain has developed over the thousands and thousands and thousands of years that we have grown as a species. And I offer this because this is where I think that having a regular practice, whether it's a prayer and meditation practice, whether it is an exercise practice, whether it is a journaling or playing a particular musical instrument practice, when we do that consistently, this continuity really establishes a pattern, a pathway that we can work with when things get a little glitchy. And so this is why I like working with gemstones and crystals and why I keep them easily within my view so that as I move through my day, I can recognize them and be reminded that there are some spirit helpers within the stones that can help as well. So that is the aquamarine. The other water stone I wanted to show you is blue lace agate. So this is a stone that has some blue chalcedony, which is a form of quartz. It has white quartz and it has, I'm blanking. How about that? It happens. So anyway, there's a third one I'm just blanked out on. But I love this because it really helps calm the mind and just relax and clear the clutter that's going on within my busyness. It was not that long ago, within the last couple of years, I shifted away from actively working as a nurse within the school system. And so I found that when I was working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of elementary age students every day, that my mind got a little full. And so working with blue lace agate was a stone that I often would work with to help kind of clear and settle my mind. And thinking of the kids, this actual piece of lepidolite is a piece that I kept with me when I worked in the schools. I always had it in a pocket or a little pouch with me so that I could support kids as they were working on de-escalating some of their ramped up behaviors and their concerns and their feelings. And I often would just actually have them hold this stone to be able to support themselves. So this is a great way where you can work with gemstones and crystals, find out how they support you, and then introduce a child to crystal healing. Kids absolutely are fascinated with gemstones and crystals. So it's a great way to introduce them to a complementary and alternative healthcare modality that supports healing. The last grouping of stones that I wanted to just talk with you a little bit about today is in the wind element, and these are also stones that I work with pretty regularly. Here is a piece of rainbow fluorite. Fluorite is another stone similar to the blue lace agate that has this beautiful variety of colors of this wind element that helps to clear out and reorganize the energy in the mind space and that brain space, which is really, really important. So that is one that I work with. Labradorite. Here's one of my pieces of Labradorite. And, oh, there you go. You get a little bit of the luminescence within it. Labradorite reflects light from within out. I love it because it can help me remember that that's my job too, right? It's all of our job to show up and let our inner light shine. And so this is an example of how I can remember to do that. And if I'm feeling like I am a little bit in a funk and I want to reconnect with that inner light and be much more intentional about remembering that that's my job to be light, just like it's your job to be light, working with the Labradorite is a great way for me to do it. And the final stone I like to work with from time to time of the water stones that I have is emerald. Emerald is a beautiful, soothing, heart-centered stone. When we find stones that are pinks and greens, those are very commonly associated with the heart chakra. And so that heart chakra really is how we show up with compassion and kindness and loving. That ability to be accepting and allowing. And so I like working with the emerald for that reason. So those are just some of the different stones that I work with. I think that was a great question. So just know that when I'm talking about all these different gemstones and crystals, I speak from my own experience. And you may find that when you're working with gemstones and crystals, you have a different experience completely than what I may offer or what you might hear from or read from somebody else. And that's great because that's your experience and that's what we want to go for. Okay. All right. Let me check chat. All right. So this question says, how often should I cleanse my crystals and how can I do it safely? Well said. So there are lots of ways for us to cleanse crystals. And so first of all, I'm going to say there's a difference between cleaning a crystal and cleansing a crystal. Certainly when we have gemstones and crystals that we have purchased from anywhere, those have been cleaned up. It could be that we actually are digging for rocks ourselves. Maybe we find a piece of quartz. Maybe we are actually going to one of these wonderful places where you can actually literally dig for your own rocks. Then those definitely are going to be full of muck and mud and dirt, and that gets cleaned. This particular question is asking about cleansing. Cleansing has to do with the fact that there are going to be times when we have gemstones that have kind of picked up some heavier energy that it's been exposed to during healing work, whether that's us doing work with the stone or, you know, if you're a crystal healer or a different kind of health practitioner and you're working with stones with your clients, then being in that space within that kind of time with clients, we would want to have those stones cleansed. When a person comes to my office for a crystal or energy healing session, all of my stones within my office, even those in my shop, are constantly being bathed with high frequency, high cleansing light. And so they're always cleansed. And at the same time, it is important for us to know how to do this. So I'm actually going to, I'm going to grab the ruby again. And I'm grabbing that intentionally, and you'll see why. So there are different ways to cleanse. There are some that are more complicated and some that are quite easy, some that are simple, and some that take a little bit more effort. One of the easiest ways is to simply place it in your hand, place your other hand over it. So whichever hand you choose to place it in, it doesn't matter. Then I'm going to ask you to be very mindful about going into your heart space. And this is where it's simple but not easy, because it has nothing to do with thinking about cleansing the stone. It is about really going into that space where you connect with that prayer space, that deep meditative space of simply allowing and inviting in that higher spiritual energy to move through your heart, arms, and hands into that stone, and holding it and cleansing it with the intention that what you're doing is cleansing the stone. Okay. So I could put this piece of ruby in my hand, cup my hands, watch TV, read a book, talk to somebody. It's not going to be doing anything other than sitting in my hand. So there's this intention and this focus of shifting into that spiritual work. That is a beautiful way and a simple and free way, right, to go ahead and cleanse stones. Another one can be with your breath, the same thing. I can blow on this stone, and I just blew on the ruby. Or again, focusing inward, connecting with that deep sense of spiritual energy that is cleansing the stone through the intention. And almost visualize, almost allow yourself to sense that that stone is being cleansed. That's a super easy way to do it. And again, free. Free is good. Another way, I have decided to work with a candle today instead of trying to get my match to light. All right. We can work with incense. We can hold the stone this way. We may choose, if you have a feather, to again work with it that way. Just going to put that incense out. It smells lovely. Another way, rice. Okay. What we can do is put this way down, cover it all up. There. That's a great way to set it aside, maybe for a day, with the intention that that rice is helping to cleanse that stone. Now, when you're done doing that with the stone, this rice, I would say, please don't eat that. It's not inherently bad. It's nothing horrible is going to happen to you. And at the same time, you've just worked with this rice for a particular reason. So let's honor that and then give that back to the earth. It may be that you throw it out so that the birds or the little animals can get that. So you can work with that. Here is another way. And this is salt. This is Himalayan salt. Here's another piece of Himalayan salt. And I wanted to show this to you. Salt, rock salt, is also known as halite, and it does have healing properties. It can be very helpful for soothing and calming the heart and the respiratory system. I simply wanted to show you what a big hunk looks like because we can find Himalayan salt in our grocery stores. I tend to dissuade people from using salt unless they know the stones that they're working with, which is why I took the ruby. On the Mohs hardness scale, talc is 0, talc is 0, or 1, all the way to 10, which is diamond. This is 9. So it's very, very strong. It's very, very hard to scratch, which is why it can tolerate being nestled in the salt. And I don't have enough salt to completely cover it. So if you have a stone that's like a piece of ruby or sapphire that can tolerate the corrosive scratching that this salt can do, you can use it, but I tend not to because then I don't have to worry about, should that have gone in that salt or not? Just know it's a way and you're going to be able to find more information if you seek it out about cleansing stones, and you will see salt referenced. Another one is water. I'm not going to dip this in because then I would have a wet rock. Again, great way to do it with the intention that you're cleansing it, because I could dip this into the water and rinse it off, and I might have gotten off some dust and dirt, but cleansing it energetically and clearing it and allowing it to reset from its experience with some of those heavier energies it might have encountered, then we would want to put that in the water for a while. I don't use water very much because sometimes it also is going to be affect the stone. If you have a piece of selenite, it's going to start getting soft because selenite is gypsum. And so that would be something that, again, we can cleanse stones with water and salt, but if there are other ways that don't interfere with or potentially interfere with the gemstone or crystal we're cleansing, then let's use the safer ones. There is another way. Here's a piece of quartz. Quartz has this ability to cleanse. It amplifies, it cleanses, it purifies. And so if we put stones on a piece of quartz, I'm going to grab another one here. I'll just grab the Larimar because those two will fit super easily. It will cleanse those stones over the course of, I would say, within 24 hours. Now, left alone, these stones are all going to reset anyway. We don't have to necessarily feel like we have to do something all the time, but I do think it is important to treat our stones well. There are a couple other ways that you can work with cleansing techniques that just come to mind. One is putting them out in the sun and letting that sunshine cleanse. Or you can do the same thing with the moon. Doesn't matter if there are clouds in the sky or not. Just again, know that there are particular stones that will fade. Fluorite will fade. Amethyst will fade. Do I have amethyst? I think, yes, I do have a little piece of amethyst. Here's a little piece of amethyst, one of the quartz family. This will fade over time if exposed to the ultraviolet rays of the sun. So if you want to put it outside, just put it outside in the moonlight. Another thing, for example, with quartz is going to, like I said, amplify. If sun hits on this, don't be surprised if it sends out a beam and starts a fire somewhere. So it's a good reason not to necessarily work with sunlight for stones unless you really know what you've got. I've got, all right, so there's a chat. Can sage, Palo Santo, or other natural substances be used to cleanse gemstones? Yes, and I guess I would say that I think it's important for us to be mindful of the plant medicines that we're working with. Every plant medicine is connected with particular wisdom traditions, particular cultures. So for me, I work with, for example, this incense. This is particular incense that I work with daily. It's connected with one of the wisdom traditions that I am connected with, so it fits. Yes, we can definitely, if we are gifted sage, or if we are, find a bundle of sage that we want to use, yes, be very appreciative of all of the teachings and the wisdom contained within the culture that brought this particular plant medicine to you, if that makes sense. Sometimes I've gone out in my yard and found some beautiful flowers, tied them up, allowed them to dry, and then I've offered that as, again, a smoke piece. So yes, you can use sage, Palo Santo, or other natural substances. Just be culturally sensitive to working with and allowing those higher spiritual energies to move through the plant medicine the way ancestrally it has over a very long time within cultural understandings. Also, can stones be cleansed just with one's own intention? Absolutely. So I could right now, if I wanted to, be extremely intentional and through my eyes look at all the stones that I have pulled out that we're going to be talking about, and I could be intentionally focused in clearing those. So yes, it definitely can be done that way too. So that word intention pops in, and that's a real good one. So I think I'm looking here. Yes, so that I hope answered that particular question. Oh, here's a question. Like I said, I've got stuff all over the place tonight. I would like to learn how to use a pendulum. Do you have any suggestions? Well, this is great. Pendulums are great. I work with them all the time. And one of the important things that I like working with a pendulum is that it takes my thinking brain out of the picture. So prior to a client coming to see me for a crystal and energy healing session, I will work with a pendulum to identify which gemstones and crystals are going to work with them, what the layout is going to be, so that by the time they walk through the door, everything is ready for that particular session. Now, that being said, I have no idea how to interpret why those stones want to work with that person. I need to do the skillful listening and working with that client and hear what it is that they're bringing through the door, so to speak, so that I can then interpret to them how the gemstones and crystals are going to be supporting them. So that's one way I use a pendulum all the time, because then I don't have to think about it. Because if I get my own thinking, ego, mind in there, I'm going to, without maybe intentionally meaning to, I'm just going to start thinking what I think they could benefit from versus allowing that pendulum, which connects with that subtle energy, that kind of inner healer within them, in order to guide the process. So before I show you a couple pendulums, I want to show you a pendulum that I actually just made. A pendulum is anything that's on a string that's weighted, okay? I have made pendulums out of a piece of thread and a paper clip, and I've done that intentionally to demystify what a pendulum does. I find, though, if you have something that's a little heavier than a paper clip, it's going to be more effective when you're working with something. I could actually take my necklace, which is fluorite today. I could take my necklace off, reclasp the chain, and then that could be a pendulum too. So there are a lot of different ways that we can work with pendulums. So a pendulum is designed to actually connect with this subtle energy field of your body if you're using it. I'm going to reference me, so I'll be speaking in first person. So it's connecting with my subtle energy field. It's also connecting with the subtle energy field around the string. And this is literally a nail that I found in the workshop. Okay, it's nothing fancy about it. I tend to shorten up my string a little bit. I learned that from a healer that I used to work with. And it's just easier for me. I am sure if she had not shown me how to do it that way, I'd probably do it a different way, but this works. What is happening is the energy that's coming off of my palm energy center is, I'm going to set this down. It's running right down between these two fingers and then into this string. So you got to think of it that way. And then when we're working with a pendulum, we have to be neutral. And this is the beauty of the pendulum, because if we're neutral, our thinking mind isn't engaging in the answer. You learn from pendulum, when you learn how to use a pendulum, you learn, first of all, what is a yes and what is a no. And then you learn how to ask questions so that the pendulum can communicate that subtle kind of subconscious answer that is just a little bit beyond our conscious awareness. So if you, for example, wanted to learn how to work with a pendulum, I would say, why don't you just give me a call and I can talk with you more about it. Pendulums are, how can I say this? They're simple to use, but hard to learn, because we have to assume, just plan that the first 100 times you work with a pendulum, I want you to assume it's you thinking and overriding the pendulum. So this is where, let's say you give me a call, maybe what you want to do is set up an hour mentoring session with me, and the job of that mentoring session is to spend it as a kind of one-on-one pendulum class. That would work great. It gives you some good ideas. So working with a pendulum takes away the need for us to think about what is best, which is really, really helpful. I wanted to show you a couple of the pendulums. I actually just brought them from my shop, just so you can see a couple examples. So here is a rose quartz pendulum. Even though we can work with a pendulum that is a nail on a piece of string, I find working with pendulums that are connected with gemstones and crystals, I like working with those. I like the different energies that I pick up on with those particular stones. So when working with a pendulum, you would figure out, like here, I'm just going to see, I'm going to ask a question. Okay, is there a stone that I should work with later today? Well, look at, that's my yes, the way it's circling. And apparently there's something in here that I should work with yet today. Okay, sometime yet before the end of the day. So I'm actually going to just, okay, it's saying amber. Anything else? Nope. So the pendulum is telling me, because I know my yes is this circle like this, that I should work with amber. So it may be that tonight I put amber next to my bedside table so that my energy field can engage with amber overnight, so that I don't have to necessarily carry this big hunk around with me all day tomorrow, but that my energy field has benefited from whatever this amber is bringing. The reason I have to almost smile, because when I was looking in there, I saw the Larimar and I thought, oh, please be the Larimar, please be the Larimar. But it wasn't. It was the amber. So when we are in a neutral place, we can get very, very skilled at working with the pendulum and trust what the pendulum is giving us. Here is an example of a beautiful clear quartz. Some people might prefer, for example, maybe a Shungite or amethyst or lapis lazuli. That's why I carry a variety, and I just wanted to show you a couple of those. So I hope that that answers the question. Again, I would encourage this person, and I'll reach back out to them to see if they have any other questions, and perhaps setting up an opportunity to have a little huddle, so to speak, and spend some time learning the pendulum would be a great way. Pendulums are amazing because you don't have to just use them when you're trying to pick out a stone. I have used them when I'm looking for something that I know is someplace in this house, and I go neutral and I say, is it upstairs? Is it here? Is it there? Is it in the garage? And I'm able to almost always find it very quickly by simply trusting the pendulum and not getting myself in the way. Okay, so that is that. Oh, here's a good question. What are man-made crystals? Okay. I'm just checking chat. Oh, good. Somebody found that last explanation informative. Good. What are man-made crystals? Well, actually, I don't have any to show you because I don't work with crystals that are man-made other than one of them, and I've referenced it a number of times, and I'll talk about it in a second. So man-made or human-made manufactured gemstones and crystals can be helpful when one is working with crystal healing. Not all crystal healers work with them, and so like I'm one that does it. I tend to work with how things, for the most part, show up in nature, with one exception. So goldstone and opalite, and I have a list of them because I can't remember all of these. So goldstone and opalite are glass, and within the glass, it contains minerals and metals, other aspects that we would find, other pieces of what we might find in a gemstone or crystal. They're included in glass, and so they're very pretty. But because they've been manufactured in a way, I don't carry them. Organite is plastic that has embedded within it metals and minerals. And often you'll see pyramid. So if you were to look up any of these online, Orgonite, for example, is like, you'll see often little pyramids that are plastic, and then they'll have wires and different colored materials within them. That's what the Orgonite is. Bismuth is a natural element, and it needs to be isolated in such a way that it stacks almost like little pyramids. It's gorgeous. It's like this metallic blue and metallic green. And oh my goodness, it's so pretty. And it stacks when it's been manipulated and isolated from its typical form, and it creates these beautiful kind of layered metal kind of pyramid shapes. Again, I don't work with these, so I can't speak other than what I've looked up as I've been kind of preparing this question. Now, citrine, common heat-treated citrine is kind of manipulated. So I'm going to reach over and get the amethyst. If this amethyst were put in a kiln or in an oven, I believe it's somewhere around 400 to 500 degrees, it will start getting yellow and gold, and it changes it from a wind element into much more of a fiery fire element stone. So that's been tweaked a bit. I do work with that one, and that heating up of amethyst also takes place naturally. And in that case, when that heat comes naturally from the earth, then it's known as natural citrine. So that is the only one of these that I work with. You're going to find a lot of dyed howlite on the market. Howlite is a beautiful white with gray veining kind of stone. It is a wind element stone. It's very calming for the mind. You're going to find a lot of dyed howlite that's been dyed turquoise to look like turquoise. So just be mindful of it. And if you're going to work with howlite that's dyed, which is fine, just know that that's what you're working with. Now, speaking of turquoise, there's a lot of different kinds of genuine, authentic turquoise, and the colors vary a little bit depending on where it's found within the world. Much of the turquoise on the market is reconstituted. It's basically, it takes all of the granules and all those little broken up pieces, and they are formed again into stone. So it's real turquoise, but it has been kind of refabricated. So again, know what you're getting. I tend to like working with the complete stone, and yet we do know that there is going to be dust that comes from some of these stones, and this is a way that they have taken the turquoise and pulled and reformed all that ground up turquoise that might otherwise go to waste. Crackle quartz. If you ever see a piece of quartz, and I don't have a piece of quartz with me that's round, but it'll be like hot pink and bright green and bright yellow and bright purple, and it'll have crackles all through it. And that is simply clear quartz that's been heated up and then it's been dyed. You can see a lot of those. Kids love them, and it is quartz, and the color is going to be an artificial color. So anytime we have an artificial color, it does not align with the chakra system the way naturally colored stones would align. And then magnetized hematite. So hematite, and again, I'm looking to see, I don't think I have a piece of hematite with me. Hematite typically is not magnetized. It's a great grounding stone. It's iron ore. And when it's magnetized, it'll all stick together. And so some people like working with it. I just don't, because it's not in its typically in its natural state. So I hope that answered that question. Here is a question that I'm going to touch on looking at my chat. And I know I've talked about this at other times, And I will always honor the questions that come in, and you may find that you can find more about this on some of my other videos. But the question is, what do I need to make a crystal grid? So first thing I would say is check out some of my other YouTube videos about grid work. Visit my online school. I have a mini course that you can take a peek at, and that will begin to introduce you to working with crystal grids. And I do have a Crystal Grids 1 course that's fairly full. It's pretty comprehensive, and it addresses a number of different ways to create grids. But what you're going to need initially is you're going to need to have some kind of a template. This is actually an example of the templates that I offer. So if you were interested in getting some templates, you could go out to my online shop. They're downloadable, and you can download them. And then this is one of the actual kinds of templates you'd get. This one happens to be a hexagonal grid. You're going to need some stones, and you're going to need an intention. So let's say that right now we are going to create a grid and set the intention for a stabilizing of the weather patterns in the world. And we know that things are a little kittywampus in a lot of places. So I have pulled some stones together, and the piece of amethyst that I've referenced a couple of times already, I'm actually going to place right in the center, because that's our center stone. That's kind of like the cornerstone if you were building a building. Well, this is the center stone. This is where we start with the grid, and we set the intentions. We just set the intention that we would call for a restabilization of the weather patterns in the world. That may seem like a really big intention, and I'm picking that specifically to show you that there is no intention too small or too big that you cannot create a grid around. So be brave and be bold if you are choosing to work with grids. So knowing that this is a type of stone that connects with those spiritual energies and anchoring that into the grid, we really want this transformation that takes place with the weather patterns to actually be connected with higher spiritual wisdom. And we also know that we are part of the kittywampus activity that is being also played out on the planet. So this is not just about weather patterns. This is about global healing. So we could consider this a global healing grid. So we've got our intention in the center. Then I have pulled just a variety of different stones. They're all earth stones. And I actually did not even think of intention until I started talking. So it's interesting that the intention that was just set, and that I'm grateful that you're holding this intention, actually is being anchored in all stones that resonate with earth. So I'm going to place 3 bloodstones, which is this powerful stone for protecting the energy field, strengthening energetic boundaries, helping us know what is ours and what is not ours. So that's calling in that healing into the mix, into this intention. This is black tourmaline, very grounding, very helpful for taking chaotic energies and clearing them and getting them kind of reorganized. So we don't always need to get everything released. What we want to do is get things reorganized. Then I have 3 serpentine. And the serpentine is this beautiful, soft, gentle, connecting earth all the way up our energy center. So it's like it's connecting earth and moving it up through, if you could imagine, the earth has chakras. The earth has an energy field. So we're working on clearing and balancing that entire earth energy field. And then I have 3 pieces of prehnite. And prehnite is like an earth water stone. It resonates with both a little bit. And it's really helpful for bringing in some inner peace and some heart-centeredness. And so you can see that I've just placed those stones from center out. And then what I'm going to do, we're simply going to connect those stones together. And to do that, we can use our finger. We could use a piece of quartz. We could use a feather. I'm going to use the quartz. And very gently either touching or just being above. I typically just go above. I'm just working off of each of those center out, center out, center out. And then I'm going to the outer perimeter. And I can feel this right away. I can feel the energy starting to kind of form together. This should be set for a while. I'm going to actually just slide it aside and I'm going to leave it here. And then I will very carefully slide it so that it can move into a space where it can sit. So what we've done is we brought in the properties of stones. They just happen to all be earth stones. Of course, nothing ever just happens. It just seems to, it's just so fun to see how this works. But we connected up with clear boundaries, a grounding, a reorganization of chaotic energies, the sense of belonging, right? And then we have this kind of weaving up energy of the serpentine. And then we have this a little bit of water, earth, kind of heart-centered, inner peace kind of energy. All those properties together that I'm actually going to leave here. I'm going to actually leave it here until next month, so that next month we'll see that again. And we will know that it's been continuing to do the work. Every day I will come back and reactivate it, either with this or through intention. And we will be offering that. If this little process encourages you to go and find some of the stones you have at home, create your own grid for a personal situation. Maybe you also want to create an earth grid. That would be beautiful. Those are examples of how you can do something. So that is what you need to make a crystal grid. You need a template, an intention, template, stones, and the activating wand. Let's see. Do grids need to be reactivated every day? I would say not necessarily every day, because this is such a powerful one that we just created. And I'm saying we, because whether you're watching live stream or whether you're watching the replay, you're part of this. And so this one, I'm going to come down, and this is my my Zoom room home office, and I will be intentionally working with this every day until next month when we gather again together. Okay. So I think that's a beautiful way to kind of end this month's Q&A. That worked really beautifully. So we've talked about some of the stones I work with personally and why I work with them. We talked about how we can cleanse stones and how intention is so important. We talked about pendulums, and we talked about how, oh my gosh, it's just beautiful that here the question was, what do I need to make a crystal grid? And out of that came this beautiful opportunity for us to have this time together to create a grid. And I do encourage you to do what you can to find a little corner on the counter, in the living room, someplace where you can create a grid. And it does not have to have as many stones as this one does. Something that holds space. It could be having like here's a piece of charoite. This piece I work with every day, and this does not have a grid around it, but it holds space and it has a particular job to do with me to help transform body, mind, spirit. Okay. So we've had some really great questions. There are actually a couple I didn't get to, and so I'll reach out to those folks and I will start up with those next month. And speaking of next month, we are going to be meeting on Thursday, May 16th from 6 to 7 p.m. I will not be having a Q&A in June. I'd like to pause a couple times a year. You know, start of summer is so busy for everybody anyway. So know that if you have questions and you want those answered in the near future, do send them to me. The link is below this video as well. Just reach out to me. And I have a QA calls page on my website that you can actually submit a little form, and then I get your questions too. But otherwise, next month, May, otherwise it won't be till July, okay? So I hope you found this helpful. Reach out to me with any questions you've got. For now, I simply wish you many blessings. Be well.